Hello, BookTube. A little while ago, Grammaticus Books, a terrific BookTube channel, wonderful guy. I'll leave a link to his channel down below. You really should go and subscribe. A little while ago, he did a video on top 5 science fiction movies that were adapted from books. And of course, when I see a list like that, I have to join in. They're almost irresistible. So I made a response video of my own. And he followed up with a response video of his own in which he fleshes out what was originally going to be a top 10 list. He says in his video that he didn't make it a top 10 list because he didn't want to make an hour-long video. And I was, are we not supposed to make hour-long videos? I thought, but I guess not. Most people don't want to make an hour-long video. So here in his latest video, which I'll leave a link to as well, he did 10 through 6. 10 through 5. He did the other half of his top 10 list. And commented a little on my own. It's just fine. He and I like trading elbows with each other. It's always wonderful when you find somebody who understands that the more savage the humor, the more friendly you're being. That's always nice. So I decided to make a response video of my own to his second response video, even though I know that I am running into perilous waters here. Not in disagreeing with Grammaticus Books, but in talking about film for any length of time. When you talk about movies for any length of time, you are inviting the appearance of movie bros, who are the worst. They are the absolute worst. Whether they take the form of younger guys who don't know anything that happened before the year 2015, or worst by far, film buffs, who are always pretentious and are always condescending, and who are always suffering from what I call the 3 T's. You talk to them long enough, and it doesn't take long, on movies, and invariably they are going to lean back in their leather armchair, stroke their goatee, and mention the 3 T's. Truffaut, Tarkovsky, and Tarantino. Theirs is a horrifying world. It's a world where no women have ever existed except the one that squeezed them out on some random winter night. It's a world in which there are no female actresses, in which there are no good actresses of any kind. They're all just props for De Niro, and then maybe a little more De Niro, and then finish up with some De Niro. It's a horrible world. The film buffs not only are condescension personified, but they also lie a lot. They lie. They have to. When you're being that pretentious, you have to lie a lot. So they'll talk. You get them talking about movies, and they'll say, yes, well, I particularly find this Bergman exquisite. They haven't watched it since they flunked out of film school. They haven't watched it since then. They're lying about liking it. They don't actually like it. They just know that they can use it as a baseball bat. They know that they can haul it out of its case in the middle of a room and get the kind of quiet silence they want in order to bloviate. And you run I'm not saying Grammaticus Books is one of those people, not at all, but you run the risk of those people being drawn to any prolonged movie discussion. It's like that movie where the slightest noise causes the aliens to converge on you. If you start talking about movies, those people are going to start to show up. And that's a horrible risk for me. I don't like that at all. I hate them even more than I hate pretentious book people. If you are one of those people, and you're watching this video, maybe you stumbled across it, you're certainly not a subscriber of mine, but if you are one of those people who stumble across this video, and you are tempted to express the 3 T's in the comments, Truffaut, Tarkovsky, Tarantino, kindly don't. Kindly don't do that. Kindly just shut up and don't involve yourself in this video. I am not making this video to you. I do not agree with you about any of the lies that you tell about the movies you claim to like. Nothing like that. So if you are a film bro, give this. I run the risk of drawing them out of the woodwork the longer we talk about movies, but I couldn't let Grammaticus' video go by. I couldn't do it. So I want to respond. We'll talk first about his picks, because although he's not a film buff, he's not a film bro. He does, in his response video, I believe, indulge in a film bro gesture. A film bro thing that they do. And I want to call him on it, because accountability is everything in a friendship as close as ours. So let's go at his picks before we get to mine. His pick number 10 is Denis Villeneuve's Dune, which he hesitates to put on there because it's not finished yet. Of course, I did an hour-long review of Villeneuve's Dune on this channel, and I got a lot of calls wrong. I made a lot of calls about that movie that were wrong. I thought it would flop, for instance. None of the calls that I made about the movie itself, none of the criticism that I made, the evaluations of the movie that I made myself were wrong. It's not good. It's ponderous and lifeless. And unfortunately, it is incredibly hampered by its star, who has no discernible acting ability and is right there holding up the whole movie. And that's just going to be worse in the second part. Grammaticus Books says that this movie is unfinished, and that made him hesitant to put it on there. And now we know it's more unfinished than even we thought, because Villeneuve wants to keep doing it. He wants to keep adapting Dune books. Even past the second part of Dune itself, he wants to do Dune Messiah. At least. So who knows how long this will go on. On the one hand, I'm cheering the appearance of these things on a big screen with billions of dollars thrown at their budget. On the other hand, I'm just wincing at the missed opportunities. That's all. There's so many missed opportunities here. Any product that has Timothée Chalamet in the main starring role is a missed opportunity, almost by definition. Watch Wonka if you don't believe me. But, Wonka is supposed to be the origin story of Willy Wonka. But it's got Timothée Chalamet in it, who cannot sing, he cannot dance, he cannot express interest in anything except tobacco. Imagine, I mean, he's too old, but imagine if you weren't casting Hollywood's poster boy himbo, which is the only reason that Chalamet gets cast, is because of what he looks like. Imagine if you weren't casting him. Imagine, for instance, what a 35-year-old Jason Alexander could have done in that role. Then he would have been a classic. But no. Instead, no. But anyway, I can't second the Villeneuve Dune. I don't particularly like it, but I know that it is watchable. Then, for his next pick, number 9, Grammaticus Books picks George Pal's The Time Machine from 1960. And talks about, here we get a crack. There are cracks in his appreciations of some of the movies in his bottom 5 that show some of what I'm talking about. He mentions, for instance, that the great set piece, the actual prop of the Time Machine, has become iconic. And that's true. That doesn't save the movie. That doesn't save the movie. The movie has 3 good sequences surrounded by flab. I'm not surrounded by flab. Look at those beady eyes. Just staring at you. Oh, baby. We're talking about movies. Oh, we are. We won't do it for very long. We don't want to push our luck here. I'm going to have to deal with both our eyebrows here, because she gets to stay as long as she wants. This might be a favorite of Grammaticus Books, but don't be fooled. Well, you're going to see. George Pal's The Time Machine is a perfect example of what I'm talking about when I say there's a double standard going on here, but we'll move on, because the next one epitomizes it. And that I was worried that this was coming, and it finally arrived. And his number 8 is Fritz Lang's Metropolis from 1927, an unwatchably sludgy piece of garbage that is granted canonical, and film bros can't shut up about it. They absolutely can't shut up about it. It was technically adapted from a literary source. I think that's a photo finish, but maybe we're just dealing with different definitions here. When I say great, when I say the best science fiction movies, I mean something that you're going to want to watch. I'm not talking about something in the record books. Grammaticus Books says, this was the very first science fiction big screen movie, and surely that makes it deserve a place on this list. It doesn't. It doesn't. If you're talking best, then it doesn't. That's noteworthy or historical, but that's not best. I guarantee you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that when Grammaticus Books sits back in front of his 150-inch plasma screen TV with Mrs. Grammaticus and all the little grammatical errors all gathered around them on the parlor floor to watch a science fiction movie, they don't ever, nor will they ever say, you know what I feel like? Let's put on Fritz Lang's Metropolis. No, they don't ever do that. They don't ever do that. Well, if there's a movie out there, whether it's George Pal's The Time Machine or Fritz Lang's Metropolis, and you don't ever do that, then it doesn't belong on this list, I think. And then his number 7 is 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Richard Fleischer, 1954, which is really good. It is really, really good. I'm not sure that it counts here, but it's certainly the best adaptation of that movie that's ever been done. Perhaps. Perhaps. It's certainly the best adaptation of that movie that's ever been done. That's for sure. Baby, are you just staring at me, little girl? You are. You're just staring. Well, a lot of you say that you like Frida to be in the videos. She is in the video. It's in an ominous kind of way, but still. And then his number 6 is a rare eruption of good taste because he agrees with me with Gavin Hood's adaptation of Ender's Game. That is his number 6. So you get recommendations of Ender's Game from both of us. Now we'll do mine. My start with number 10. He gives us some honorable mentions before we move on to my list. And his honorable mentions only prove what I suspected in his first video, which is that he hasn't crossed the doorstep of a movie theater since the 1980s. Now, I'm not bashing that. I also loved the 1980s, and also, the film bros are going to go nuts about this, but I think indisputably the 1980s is the best movie decade of them all. I think that's hands down true, but it doesn't mean you live there. Right? And both of Grammaticus's honorable mentions are 1980s. First, he mentions Gerald Potterton's 1981 movie of Heavy Metal, which is so awful that I'm assuming this is just a personal favorite on his part. I don't take it as any kind of recommendation. That's 90 minutes you'll never get back. And his other one is Wolfgang Petersen, 1985, Enemy Mine. Also not good. I know it's a favorite with a lot of you, but it's not a particularly good movie. There's one sequence, the sequence where the two main characters finally understand each other. Sure you all know the scene that I'm talking about because I'm sure it's the only thing you can remember from the movie. Those are his honorable mentions. I'm going to give honorable mentions too, but mine are a lot better. So my number 10 overlaps with Grammaticus Books. That is Starship Troopers, which is 1987, Paul Verhoeven. It's a disturbing movie, but it's disturbing, but and thought-provoking, but it's also terrific to watch. I guarantee you that Grammaticus family evening, they are 1,000% more likely to put Starship Troopers on that gigantic plasma screen TV than Fritz Lang's Metropolis. They're 1,000 times more likely to do it. They would probably, if they didn't want to watch Starship Troopers again, they'd probably go ranging on YouTube or Netflix for something other than Fritz Lang's Metropolis. So I want to put Starship Troopers on there. I absolutely love it. I didn't mean to come across in my last video that I didn't. I do love it. I just think there's been backlash about it. It was originally criticized as fascist propaganda. The director and the director's fanboys all said, no, it's not. Instead, it's satire of fascist propaganda. Maybe it's just that I'm more thin-skinned in the 21st century now that gaslighting has become a de facto part of our everyday life. But please don't tell me that what I'm watching is not what I'm watching. That is gaslighting, and that drives me nuts. If Starship Troopers is a satire, a send-up of fascist propaganda, it is also fascist propaganda. So there's no way you can say that it's not at least partially that. It's just terrific. Anyway, all of it is just terrific. The visuals, the great scene where the bugs override the outpost, all of it is just amazingly good. So I had to put that on here. Then my number 9 is from 2011, and it is Rise of the Planet of the Apes, directed by Rupert Wyatt. So technically, tangentially, if he can put Fritz Lang's Metropolis on there as an adaptation of a book, then I can put this on here. Because technically, it is, the Planet of the Apes was a book, and this wouldn't exist without that idea. But this is how that story would have to start. The Planet of the Apes movie, the apes are in control of a future Earth. Humans they're swapped places. Humans are in zoos. Humans are servants and whatnot. And in the movie, you're just supposed to think, oh, okay, apes just got more and more advanced. But something more would have to happen than that. It couldn't just be that apes got more and more advanced. They would get more and more advanced into more and more advanced gorillas and orangutans and chimpanzees. They wouldn't develop a hyoid process. They wouldn't develop the part of the brain that deals with culture or the part of the vocal apparatus that can make complex language. They wouldn't do that, no matter how advanced they got. It's not how evolution works. Something had to have stepped in and changed things, and that's what Rise of the Planet of the Apes shows you. It shows you what that would have to be. Some process would have to change in a basic core population of animals. And that happens in this movie, and it's wonderful. You don't expect a Planet of the Apes movie to have good acting in it, but this does have good acting. John Lithgow is fantastic, but also this movie goes a long way to remind you, or maybe convince you, that James Franco can act when he wants to. He's actually a good actor when he wants to act well. It's a very, and Andy Serkis, of course, is the whole movie, and it's a very moving piece of work. It's science fiction the way science fiction should be done, in that it takes the science fiction elements in the movie make you uncomfortable. They make you think about things. Like what it means to be human, how it means to be accepted, all that sort of stuff. Now, the last time I made a movie list and mentioned a Planet of the Apes movie, I mentioned the Mark Wahlberg, Charlton Heston Planet of the Apes, and got no end of crap for it. I'm hoping that this is a little gentler. I'm thinking that this is a better regarded movie than that. That's a heck of a movie. but I'm hoping that this is a little bit better regarded. This is a very watchable movie. That's going to be my number 9. And if that's going to cause problems, well, my number 8 is going to cause problems. The director is Stephen Norrington. The year is 2003. It's technically adapted from a number of different books. I am going to say The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I am indeed going to say The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Which is not only drawn, it's populated by all these great fictional creations from 19th century literature, but it also comes from a series of graphic novels by Alan Moore, which is a discrete source. So it counts on a couple of different levels. So you've got Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, you've got Mina Harker from Dracula, you've got Alan Quatermain, you've got The Invisible Man, you've got Captain Nemo, and you've also got the Nautilus. So visual update to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea with James Mason, and far more accurate Captain Nemo. Far more accurate Nautilus. I love it. I absolutely love the movie. It's got Tom Sawyer in it as well. It's extremely... What's the word I'm groping for? Bad? No, it's not. It's not bad. It's hokey. It's very, very hokey. But I love it. I absolutely love it. Especially, of course, the library scene. If you know the movie, you'll know the scene I'm talking about. I think the library scene is just wonderful. I just eat it up. Although thinking of that guy as Aragorn, that sends the hairs up on my neck. But I'm going to, number 8 for me is going to be The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Deal with it. And then we move on to number 7. Here I'm going to overlap with Grammaticus Books again with Blade Runner, Ridley Scott's Blade Runner, which is brilliant. It is a brilliant movie. I'm not 100% sure of some aspects of it, but it does no wrong. I think it does no wrong. I love it. So I definitely want it on my list as we get closer and closer. We are now moving to number 6, the end of my list. This is from 1978. The director is Frank Schaffner, and this is The Boys from Brazil, based on the novel by Ira Levin. It counts as science fiction. Couldn't be done even today. And it's those of you who don't know the movie, maybe don't know the Ira Levin book, it's about what would happen if people cloned Hitler. It's a cloned Hitler story. But you take a cloned Hitler story and you adapt it to the screen. It was meant as a screenplay anyway, so it's easy to adapt. You adapt it to the screen. There's one way that you can give it gravitas. There's one way that you can make it infinitely rewatchable. And that is to hire heavyweight actors. Put great actors in it. In this case, Gregory Peck and Laurence Olivier. And they're amazing. And my favorite scene in the whole movie doesn't involve either one of them. Of course, those of you who know the movie know the climax of the movie. You're automatically going to be wondering, what does Steve think of that? What does Steve think of dogs being at the climax of the movie? But my favorite scene is a throwaway thing. I love it. I think it's so well done. And it really underscores the fact that all the Nazis were villains, not just Hitler. All of them were bad guys, in particularly wheedling ways that don't go away. Even if you manage to survive the purge and live in post-war years, you're still a Nazi. And some of you might be guessing the scene that I mean takes place on a huge dam in winter. It doesn't have to be Saturday. I love that scene so much. There's one scene in it. It's a throwaway scene. It's not part of the plot, but I love it. But I love the whole movie. I think the whole movie's fantastic. There's a scene when Laurence Olivier's character is interrogating a female concentration camp guard, and Olivier's brilliant in that scene. Just brilliant. The tonal range that he does alone in that. I love it. I love the whole thing. So I'm gonna put Boys from Brazil, and then I want to give some honorable mentions. We've already talked about the Sci-Fi Channel adaptation of Dune. John Harrison is I know that name crops up a lot on this video, but John Harrison is the director of the Sci-Fi Channel adaptation of Dune. I think it's really good, much better than Villeneuve's. Surprisingly good. much better than either of the Dune movies that Grammaticus Books has championed. He's just picking the wrong ones, that's all. But the Sci-Fi Channel version is very good. And also good in a way that I did not expect, because it adds stuff. It adds dialogue and scenes, and I think they're well done. They hold up. We already mentioned that, though. So I want to give you 2 honorable mentions. One is also a TV series. It's adapted from books. It's The Expanse, which is really, really good. Really touching. Really well done. From beginning to end. So I'm not just saying that because of my boy Stephen Strait. I'm saying that because the whole show is great. Just reliably so. So I want to use that as an honorable mention. And then there's another adaptation, technically an adaptation. It's from 1999. It was directed by Brad Bird, and it is The Iron Giant, which is, I mean, on one level, on a Disney kind of level, it's a giant robot movie. But it's... Sorry for the science fiction sound effects here. My little dog is going crazy. Can you see? She's just going crazy back there. We're talking about you, baby. Do you see what Grammaticus Books' picks have done to her? They're sending her into convulsions. Fritz Lang's Metropolis. Look what Fritz Lang's Metropolis has done to my little baby. It's driving her crazy. Anyway, those are my responses here to flesh out the top 10 list. And if he's up for it, I'm happy to throw the gauntlet down to Grammaticus Books. I know that the longer we talk about movies, the more we risk movie bros coming into the discussion on his video and mine. I don't want that. I don't think he does either. They're gross. If you are one, please take your 3 T's, your Truffaut, your Tarkovsky, and your Tarantino, and wander off to some other discussion board. But I'm happy to throw down the gauntlet to Grammaticus Books. You did a top 10 list of the best science fiction movies adapted from books. Care to try best science fiction movies, period? Perhaps a best 10 science fiction movies that aren't adapted from books, so they don't include any of these choices? If you're up for that, I am too. How many science fiction movies from the 80s can you name? Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. I couldn't let this go, but we'll see what you think. You tell me what you think. I already know what you all think of probably 2 of my choices, Planet of the Apes and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Maybe I'll find somebody that likes both of them. That would be great. Well, I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.